Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. Those of you guys who have been watching this channel for a while know that I'm an avid cyclist and I've been commuting by bike to work for almost 2 decades. I don't really, use a car for much of anything. And an Aptera basically was like the perfect vehicle for someone who loves bikes, but sometimes you just can't bike to go 100 miles someplace, so you need a vehicle. And the back of an Aptera fits a bicycle very easily. So, anyways, love bikes and I love e-bikes because I think e-bikes make cycling accessible for more people. You don't have to be super fit, and sometimes you want to get someplace and not be sweaty when you go there. And some people live in really hilly environments where biking is honestly pretty hard. So I think e-bikes are the best thing, and there have been a couple of videos on this channel talking about how e-bikes have probably taken away more carbon emissions than electric cars worldwide because e-bike adoption is pretty high. E-scooters, e-bikes, e-motorcycles, that kind of stuff in many parts of the world. Those are the primary means of transportation. And I personally feel like bikes, if more people traded in a lot of their car rides for bike rides, it would make the world better in that communities would be better. People would be nicer to each other. I think people are nicer to each other when they're on bikes. When we're in these metal cages, we feel disassociated from each other. People are angry at each other. There's road rage. People don't get road rage on a bike generally. You see your neighbors, you wave hi to them. I think it's good for community integration. And then it's just, there's just something cool about like getting on a bike and going to pick up groceries, or going on a bike and picking up the takeout food that you got for dinner, that kind of stuff. Anyways, also is a company that is a spinoff of Rivian that just came out with a bike, and their bike is very interesting. And so I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Their bike is something called TMB, and it's not a bike in the traditional sense of the word. Basically, there is no connection between the pedals and the wheel. It is a completely, so your pedaling power does not directly move the bike at all. What this is the pedal is connected to a generator. The generator produces some energy, so you can produce some energy with it, and it senses how much torque and energy you're putting into the system, and then by software it lets the motor know, like depending on how much thrust you want, it connects how much power you're inputting to how much power the motor is outputting. So you can just say like, oh, I want you to output 2 times or 3 times or 4 times or 10 times. It's up to 10 times how much torque you're putting into the thing. But there is no direct connection to it. And then everything about the bike is in this box, which is a completely different design. But the battery is right here, and then the generator and the motor is right here. And the other thing that this part is showing is you can this top part of the bike is completely modular, and you can put in different things depending on what you want. You want it like more like a scooter, you want it more like a sport bike, you want it more like a cargo bike, you want it more like a commuter bike. You can change that out, and this is completely toolless. You can you push a button on the headset, and then it unlocks, and you put it in, and then the next thing locks in there. So you can have different tops for different people, and has their preferences. It changes their like boost settings and all that stuff. It's a cool idea. I'm kind of a minimalist and a bit of a cycling purist, so I like an e-bike to be as much of a bike as possible with a little bit of input from a motor when you need help. But I can see the appeal of this, and I think I'm warming up to it basically. So it is a belt drive, which makes it very, very low maintenance, and it doesn't have those ridiculously huge fat tires, which I'm not a big fan of. And this design makes it much more simpler, because a lot of bicycling parts that does the mechanical linkage, like the derailleurs, the bottom bracket, the hubs, all that stuff, they can be expensive if you want good ones. Bicycling parts are expensive. This kind of gets rid of all of that. And I remember talking to the guy that's in charge of organic transport making the Elf, and he was thinking about making a cheaper version of the Elf. The Elf is that little solar powered tricycle, enclosed tricycle that you guys might remember. They're being built out of the Research Triangle area in North Carolina. He was saying that the cheaper one was going to be something like this with no mechanical linkage, because the mechanical linkage adds a lot of price to the vehicle. So they're actually, this system makes this bike cheaper to build. Okay. The other, so here we go. This is the thing that you can swap in and out. It's got bright headlights, which you want. It's got this little integrated display here. This is them talking about, they call this their dream drive. The cool thing about this is you can unlatch this battery and it becomes a huge battery bank. Now, the battery, there's two versions of one that's about 500 watt hours and another one that's about 850 watt hours, which is similar to the e-bikes that I've reviewed here. 550 being kind of on the lower end and 800 being on the upper end, like the Fukari bike that I like, that I use for my longer trips. That one is about a 900 watt hour battery. And so similar to this. Now they're saying that this will give you 100 miles of range under ideal conditions. And these ideal conditions have to be super duper ideal. I think like you're doing most of the pedaling. There's no way you're going to get 100 miles of range if you're letting the bike do most of the work with a 850 watt hour battery. That's just not happening. So on my Fukari bike with a 900 watt hour, I think I get about, I would say 35 miles of range, maybe 40, which is pretty good. But there's no way you're getting 100 unless you're doing most of the pedaling on your own. So as you go through, yeah, you can see here, that's how it pulls out. This thing charges by USB-C, and it can also be acting as a USB-C charging, like a battery bank. So it outputs, I think, like 200 watts, and you can input like 240 watts into the thing by USB-C. So you can put in some serious power, and it can output some serious power. And this is a really high-end battery pack. It's built like a Rivian battery pack, basically. So the thing I wanted to, yeah, so this is the other really important thing about it is with e-bikes, the big problem is things getting stolen. Now, luckily, I live in an area where crime is fairly low, and I have a very cheap like cable lock that could easily be cut with a bolt cutter. But I haven't had any problems with my bikes being stolen. But bikes being stolen is a big problem, and so they've done a lot of cool things here that make the bike being stolen harder. Number one, the thing locks and unlocks via your phone, kind of like a Tesla. When you walk away, the bike locks, and what that means is the pedals disengage, so you can spin the pedals freely and nothing happens, and the rear wheel locks because the rear wheel is engaged directly to the motor. Oh, and this allows for regenerative braking, which is another kind of a cool feature. I don't know that because bikes are fairly light, you're not going to get that much regen, but it allows the motor to do most of the braking, so the disc brakes, the friction brakes, don't have to do very much work, and it has regenerative braking. But anyways, when you walk away, the thing locks. You cannot roll it, and then when it bumps, a little alarm goes off and warns the person that bumped it that it will alarm louder, and then it sends you a notification on your phone. You can always track the bike by phone, and so if someone were to pick it up and like put it on the back of a truck, you could track it, and you could remotely lock lock the bike so that it can't do anything. You can brick it so that there's no resale value to the bike other than to like melt it for the metal or something, which is not going to be that much. So you won't be able to unlock the battery. You can't use it as a power bank. You can't use it as a bike. All all the bike parts are serialized and attached to the bike, so you can't like resell the parts. So it makes the bike essentially worthless to a thief. Now, the important thing is like, is the thief going to know all of this, or does he think that it's going to be worth something if he steals it? Now, if they become popular and the thieves understand what it is, they'll understand, oh yeah, this thing is not worth anything if I steal it. But I don't know that it's going to be common enough that people who steal bikes are going to know that. Who knows? Maybe they're more sophisticated than I think. But it does alarm very loudly and give them a warning that they are being tracked and the bike is being disabled and it won't be worth anything to them. So whether or not they believe it, I'm kind of interested to see if this works. If it does work, I think this is great, and I think this is technology that wouldn't be that hard to implement in other bikes. And this is a big friction point in people using bikes. Is they're afraid of theft. Like when I'm taking my bike, I always keep it with me. I take it into the like when I go to Home Depot to buy parts, I take my bike in with me. Now Walmart is a big pain about it. One of the many reasons I don't like Walmart. But like when I take my bike into Walmart, the security comes out and tells me I can't have a bike in there. I mean, I don't know why people ride like motorized scooters in there. Um, the little scooters for people that have difficulty. The mobility scooters, they take up just as much space as a bicycle. So I'm not sure what their issue is, but they won't let me. Home Depot and Lowe's is completely fine with it. The grocery stores are fine with it. They haven't ever given me problems. But I don't feel very safe about leaving my bike outside those areas because I'm afraid that it will get stolen. So these things that they're doing to reduce theft is kind of cool. Okay, so the price. Okay, that's the other thing I wanted to. The price is pretty steep. It's $4,500, which seems like a lot, and it is a lot compared to the bikes that I usually. The bikes that I'm reviewing are like 700 to like $1,500, which is way cheaper. But this is a much um, higher quality build bike. And if you look at like other high quality bikes, like let's look at um, specialized bicycles. Like let's look at their mountain bikes, the Turbo Levo. If you look at the Turbo Levo, that price range goes from like $15,000 to on the high end to, let's see, you can get down to $6,000. So compared to these kinds of bikes, and the reason like these are bikes with really high end bicycle parts, and just high end bicycles that are non motorized can go upwards of $10,000. And so you see like their commuter bike, it goes from 5,000 to $3,000. And if you look at road bikes like their Creo, that's can go from 14,000 to 4,500. So this price is not insane. It's not crazy. Um, it's crazy to me because I honestly, I don't see myself paying this much for this bike or this much for a bike from Specialized. But I'm kind of a cheapskate, and I'm pretty happy with like the $1,000 e-bikes. And I have lots of regular non e-bikes that are, my road bike's a $900 road bike, um, and I'm pretty happy with that. Now, they have another thing which I'm kind of a little bit more excited about actually. They have this thing called the Quad, and it looks like this. It's basically a delivery van, but it's very narrow, so it fits into bike lanes in the city. And I think they're trying to sell this as like an urban delivery vehicle, which I think is awesome. So urban delivery vehicles, if you use vans, parking is really hard to find. They're not very agile. You get stuck in traffic. Using bike lanes and for urban centers, this is quieter. It's safer. It's easier to get closer to your delivery point. And this is the same technology. Like the pedals don't connect to the thing. And actually, there's another thing I heard of earlier called this is funny because this is a European company. It's called the Vacu, which sounds very similar to something else that's like not something you can say in polite company. But basically, this is a delivery vehicle. You can set it up like this with an open frame, or you can set it up with a big box. Okay, they're not showing it. Oh yeah, here we go. The VOC UXL. Yeah, you can set it up with a big box. So that looks very similar to the quad here. And these are, so the price of this thing is like 15,000 pounds. So it's an expensive vehicle, but if you're a company and you are using this for urban transport, it's way cheaper than a van, and it's faster in that you don't have to worry, you don't have to look for parking, and it's you don't the delivery person doesn't have to walk as far from the parking to the delivery thing. You pull right up to the delivery place. So I think a lot of companies are going to find these kinds of vehicles compelling, as long as they are able to use the cycling, the bike lanes and things like that. So I think the more of these types of vehicles that show up in urban settings doing work, it's gonna make air quality better, traffic better, the parking situation better. I think it's just gonna be better all around. So I hope these things take off and do well. And I'm glad to see that Rivian is spinning also, and I think also has some great ideas, and I wish them well. And I'm very interested to see how well they do, and if their anti-theft mechanisms are effective and do result in less theft of bicycles, which I think would be great for everyone. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.